welcome back to the kitchen. In this video I'm going to show you how I make a Jack Daniels Honey smoked salmon. And it's going to be an oak smoked salmon as well. And we're doing this for the festive season. But you know what? You can do this at any time of the year, so long as you got the conditions outside to cold smoke, because we're going to be cold smoking this for around about 24 hours. But before we do that, we've got to prep this salmon. And this is a side that I took out of the supermarket. This one we got for 12 quid. Couldn't believe it was a really good bargain, and it saves you all the aggro of having a whole fish, needing to take the side off it, take the bones out of it, take the pin bones out of it, and then do all that processing. So if you wanted to do this and do it nice and quickly and still have a reasonably decent piece of smoked salmon, this I think is the way to go for you at home if it's something that you want to try and have a go at. So first thing we need to do is we need to get this out of the packet and onto the workbench so we can take you through the processing. So first thing I'm going to do is get this out of the container. Reasonably easy to do. And then we can get that onto the workbench. This is a good one because it's been trimmed quite nicely. It's got a little bit of a belly flap there, but we're not too fussed about that. We'll process that in a moment. So I mean, that looks quite raggedy there, which isn't good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this a little bit of a wipe down because it's got quite a lot of moisture on it, you can see. And obviously part of the curing process is all about removing that moisture. And that's what we're going to do in a second. But before we do that, I want to make this look nice. So it's not bad looking as it is. I mean, it looks very, very nicely sort of processed so far, but it's got this raggedy edge and I just want to remove some of the belly anyway. So I'm going to be making a cut down here. And I'll do that now so you can see how I do that. There we go. And that is the belly. It's got a lot of fat in it. And this grilled is unbelievable. Very, very nice piece of the fish. So we're not going to throw that away. So there we go. This is going to be our smoked salmon. And so that looks reasonably okay. There are a couple of little bits here I want to show you. Let me turn it round. Can you see here? This is where the fin normally comes out of the fish. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to trim that little bit off there. Don't want that on the finished article. And just give my old hands a wipe. It's not looking too bad, that one. So, as I do with all fish that I'm going to cure, I don't want the scales on it. And an easy way of getting rid of the scales and any other gunk that's on the surface, any fat from the top of the fish, you just use an edge of a knife and it takes off all the scales there. If you have a really nice close look at that, you can see that takes off all the scales. And then it's a good way of dressing the fish. You don't want to be aggressive with it, you want to be nice and gentle. You don't want to open up those flakes. That's not going to make a very attractive smoked salmon when you come to slice it. So you want to try and handle it in the most sympathetic way. Try and keep it as flat as you can all the way through. So that's our fish. I'm going to be weighing out some salt for this. Now, whenever I make a smoked salmon, I always advocate that I try and do it with the least amount of salt possible. And I try between 3 and 5%. So this is an 800 gram side of salmon. and therefore 1% of the weight of that is going to be 8 grams. If I work this to between 3 and 5%, let's say 4, that's 32 grams of salt. So I will weigh out 32 grams of salt. If you're going to use a Malden sea salt or a kosher salt which has a bigger granule, you can up the weight a little bit, maybe 6%. And the reason for that is that while you're curing this salmon, very fine granules will turn into a brine and penetrate through the salmon a lot quicker than larger flakes or granules of salt. So that's the only reason I can up the quantity if I use a chunkier salt. Right, so let's weigh this out. So we're going to be weighing out 32 grams of this salt, and that's going to be what we're going to be curing with. Now as this cures, and we're probably going to cure this for around about 12 hours. There we go, 32 grams. What we're going to do, we're going to cure it on this board here. I say board, it's one of those sandwich platters you get. But the reason I like it is because it's got a raised portion here and almost like a little moat around the outside. So any brine that comes off this is going to roll away and not sort of over cure the fish. But in order to prevent any brine from sloshing around, I just put an arbitrary layer of salt in the base. And that really is to just act as a mop. It's not going to have any curing effect at all. So what I generally do, first of all, is I dob the end in there so that we've got salt on the end, and then I lay that down nice and flat in the center of the board. I'll just try and keep that out of the moat. And with our 32 weighed out grams, I'm going to try and get all of this onto the fish. And we try and do it in a way that means that most of it goes on the thickest part and least of it goes on the thin bit. If we don't do that, this bit will overcure and this bit will undercure if we don't get it right. So we want to try and do it in proportion to the thickness of the flesh underneath the salt. And this is a good piece of salmon because it doesn't have any open flakes. If you do this and you've got salmon with open flakes, that can cause you a little bit of a problem. So the fact that this hasn't got any of that is always good. So there we go. So you can see I've kind of built up the layer around the thickest part of the fish, and as you progress to the edges where it's thinner, there's less salt. So that is ready to cure. The only thing I would say, if you're going to cure this in a fridge with a lot of other food around, it is okay to put a little bit of cling film over the top of that. But generally, if you could put this in the fridge where it doesn't have contact with other food, that's a winner. Right, so this is going to cure now for 12 hours, and we're going to do that in a fridge. Once that's done, I'll take you through the next piece of the process. See you in a bit. With the salmon now cured and out on the bench, it's time to take it over to the sink where we can rinse off all that salt. Right, we can now wash the salmon. It's been curing for a little bit longer than 16 hours. We were going to do this for 12 hours. It's more like 16 hours. So look at all that fluid that's coming out of there. So that's all been drawn out by the salt. So all we're going to do now is give this a very quick rinse. All we're going to do is just get rid of the salt on this. Nice cold water. And it's coming in pretty cold today, I can tell you. And that's it. That is it. And we'll just rinse this off. Okay, we can now get this on the bench and carry on with the processing. Okay, this has just been washed. We'll lift the salmon off. Now this has been cured, so it's had the salt washed off it now. And all we're going to do is take off any excess water. Now this is going to be a honey Jack Daniels smoked salmon, so I've got my honey Jack Daniels on the table. I might need to just check that it's okay before I put it on the salmon, but it's obviously a standard thing that everyone has to do. If you're going to be infusing alcohol into fish, you do need to test it first. So this is only really possible for anyone over the age of 18 or 21 for our American cousins in those states where that's the law. Right, so that's nice and dry. I will just flip it over and make sure that the other side of this is dry too, because that can actually get a little bit slimy. So we just want this really nice and dry. Once that's dry, we'll give this a bit of a dry, because we want to go back on this. Because we're now going to infuse our salmon with a little bit of that Jack Daniels. Now before we do that, what I want to do is to make sure that none of that Jack Daniels escapes. So I'm going to be using a little bit of cling film. So I'll just cut some here. Oh, the cling film's behaving today. That makes a change. Right, so I'll just get that out of the way. We'll lift our fish up and we'll put that cling film back down. And we want the fish on this, because obviously if we're going to be putting alcohol on this, we don't want that to leak out everywhere. So I've got a little nip of Jack Daniels honey here. That's jolly lovely. Jolly lovely. And there we go. I might not use all of that. Well, not on the salmon anyway. So to ensure that I get this to go inside the salmon, I've got this very fine, pointy, nasty, spiky thing here. I call it a murder death tool because obviously it's a bit nasty. So I'm just going to pierce the salmon just down its whole length, very carefully, not going through the cling film or the skin underneath. Now this will aid it in getting into the flesh. We'll go down the middle. There we go. Oh, and you can feel, once this is cured, the density of this meat really does increase because you're reducing the moisture content, so it really firms up. You can feel that in the texture when you pick this up, but you can also feel it when you're spiking it with the old murder death tool. So now I'm just going to drizzle this on. I don't want to put too much on here. Part of the art of cold smoking is actually drying out. So I'm going to let this infuse for a couple of hours, and then I'm going to remove the cling film and allow this to dry, because we want a pellicle to form on here. And all a pellicle is a thin, sticky sort of salt protein glaze that sits on the top, and it allows the smoke to stick to the salmon once it goes into the smoker. So just drizzle just a fraction more on there. That's looking really lovely. So this is going to give it a lovely sweetness, and hopefully there won't be much of this left once it goes on the table. Right, and all I'm doing now is I'm just folding that over, and that can go back in the fridge for a couple of hours to do its thing. And then once it's done its thing, what I want this to do is to dry out And to get this to dry out, I'm going to need to remove all this cling film and leave it in the fridge nice and flat. So there we go. Hey, chef's perks, I think they call this. That's it, I can't drive the car now. Oh no. See you in a bit. Okay, so our salmon has been curing with, well, it hasn't really been curing, it's cured already, and we have just put this into the cold room for another couple of hours with that beautiful Jack Daniels honey on it. And oh my God, I can tell you that smells absolutely insane. Now, the next step is to get this to dry. And it's not really going to dry on here, so I need to take it off here and lay it onto a rack. Now, what I want to happen with this is for it to dry naturally and form a pellicle on the surface. And once that's dry, that'll be a nice sticky salt and protein glaze, which will allow the smoke to stick to this when it goes into the smoker tomorrow. So we're going to allow this to do its thing for about 24 hours just to dry, and then when that's ready, this is going to go into my original cold smoker, and I'm going to smoke this over some beautiful oak dust for around about 24 hours, but we'll do that setup tomorrow. Right, let's get this in the cold room. Right, the salmon has been drying with that beautiful Jack Daniels honey glaze on it. And I just want you to have a look at that. That is amazing, isn't it? I mean, the shine on that, or the pellicle as we call it, is absolutely perfect to allow the smoke to stick to the surface. So, I want you to see how I'm going to be smoking this. So, I've got my artisan smoke generator here from ProQ. I'm going to be using a mixture, and it's about sort of 80% oak and about 20% beech. And I'm going to mix this up together here. And I'm going to fill my smoke generator. Now this smoke generator, I've done a few videos on this on the channel, so you can have a look at those. I'll leave a link in the description so you can check those videos out. But this will burn for around about sort of 16 to 18 hours. And that's perfect for what we're going to do. We might even do it in 2 runs, so we get a really nice smoky salmon. Now it's pretty chilly outside, certainly by UK standards, and I'm sort of in the, I wouldn't say I was in the Midlands, but I'm sort of middle south of the UK in Milton Keynes. Anyone that knows UK geography will know that we generally get wet, warm winters with westerly winds, which means we rarely get sort of too frosty down this sort of south of the UK. So for the last week we've had sort of minus temperatures, which is kind of unheard of really. I can't remember it being like that for a very long time. Anyway, it's not a problem. Just put a coat on, don't you? And but the temperature today is just beginning to warm up. So I think we're +1 out there. I can see there is snow out there, but it's just beginning to melt. And I've got a wonderful apple tree in the garden that's just been dripping a little bit this morning. So that tells me that things are warming up. And we'll get this in the cold smoker, and we might even get a couple of smokes out of this. We'll see how we go. But right, that's my artisan filled up. I'm going to take it out there. It sits on a metal tray in the bottom of the smoker, and I'm going to be smoking it in my original cold smoker. So next time you see this, I'll be in the garden getting this all lit and stuffed away into the smoker. Oh blimey, this is cold out here. Chilly. Right, get this neck. Wahahahaha. Come on, you beauty. Only need to do this for about 30 seconds. There we go. Give it a bit of love from the top as well. Let me show you that a little bit closer up. This is the inside of my smoker. Ah, delightful. Oh, I'm going to enjoy this. Right, let's get the salmon in here, eh? So I'm going to put the salmon at the very top. Okay. Come here, you. Let me show you inside my smoker. Ta-da! Look at that. How beautiful is that? Right, this is going to go in here. Next time we see this, it won't just be salmon. It'll be smoked salmon. Oh, drop my torch. Oh, it's full of ice. That's no use, is it? Bet it doesn't work now. Oh yeah, that works. Hey, all good. Right, let's get you nice and close so you can see what's going on. So this is my original cold smoker, which there is a video on the channel about this. And it's very nice. It's got a handle. And it is made of wood, so obviously we need to be careful what we place things on. So you can see the smoke generator is sitting on a wonderful metal tray there, and that's doing its thing. And we've got a couple of different racks here, so we're going to pop this on the higher rack. Obviously we want the smoke to get to it, and we're going to close the door and leave this for a couple of days. Bye, see you soon. Hang on. Look what's happening to my clogs, man. I've got platform clogs on. Let's just take a quick sneaky peeky in here just to see if it's still alight. Oh yeah. So that's just getting going now. So this will produce a lot more smoke once it gets going. I think we'll just let it do its thing. There we go. Shut the door. Shut the door. There you go. What, I was out here at 3 o'clock in the morning refilling the smoke generator just for a little bit. There we are. Wow, take a look at that. So when I came out here last night it was just to here, so I filled it back, coming back that way with a load of wood dust, so it burnt all the way round here to there, and then it carried on burning the last bit and also burning back here where I'd refilled it. So that's given me, it's exactly 24 hours since I put it in here. It's not as cold as yesterday, however. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, the colour is absolutely... Oh, the smell is amazing. Oh, let's get this back inside. Right, here we go. Here's our smoked salmon. This has been smoking all night, 24 hours it's been smoking, and I'm now going to slice it up for you. Now, if you really want that smoky flavour to penetrate through, what you can do is cover this fillet with a piece of cling film and stick it in the fridge for 24 hours before you slice it. But for this instance, I'm just going to go ahead and slice it. Now, remember, this is a Jack Daniels Honey smoked salmon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a little bit of extra Jack Daniels honey when I come to slice it. And then I'm going to show you how I bag this on gold silver boards. So first of all, we need to take it off this rack and get it ready for slicing. So I'm going to do what we call a D-slice, and that's basically taking slices from the tail section and working up to the head of the salmon. And I'm going to wear my gloves because I like to do this when I've got my gloves on. And of course I've been holding that tray which has got all that smoky residue on it, so I don't want to transfer all of that onto the salmon. Right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a little bit more of this Jack Daniels onto the surface, and that gives it just the most amazing glaze. This has got obviously quite a lot of sugar in it. So this went for 24 hours. I went out at 3 o'clock in the morning this morning and relit it. So I had to put some more wood dust into the smoke generator and light it. So here we go. I'm going to take my first cut, and it's usually from around here, heading towards the tail. And there we go. That's the first cut. That's the chef's perks there. So the rest of them I'm going to put on a gold silver board. Now these are our 165 gold boards, and we do have these on our website, coldsmoking.co.uk. We do sell them in retail packs if you're interested in doing this yourself. So there's our first slice, and we're going to pop that there. And then we'll take gradually wider slices as we come up the fillet. And you can see I'm not going completely down to the skin. I'm just lifting the knife just a little bit there. That releases the fillet. And we want that nice slice coming off there. Absolutely beautiful. And this is so firm. Now we've cured it and we've taken off the water from this. It's got a lovely sort of feel to it. There we go. Let's pop them that way round. That's it. And when you've put them all on your gold board, then we can stick them in a vacuum bag. And this is great for freezing, or if you want to give them away as gifts. Absolutely amazing way to present someone with a nice little foodie hamper. So what I'm going to do is just slide this into the vacuum bag now. I'm going to make sure it's all pressed down. There we go. And slide that into the bag. Get it right down the base. And then into the vacuum machine. And there is our beautiful Jack Daniels Honey Smoked Salmon. And this is absolutely perfect for giving as gifts to people. We're probably going to have this for lunch, but I've got to tell you, if you stick this in the freezer, it's good for a year. I've had some smoked salmon that I've made, I've put in the freezer on vacuum, on gold boards, and when I've taken it out, about a year later, it's as good as the day it went in. It's absolutely delicious. And that's partially because you're curing it correctly, you're taking out an awful lot of moisture. So when you freeze this, the structure of the salmon isn't altered in any way, shape or form, any discernible way. So there you go. This is my beautiful Jack Daniels Honey Smoked Salmon. So what I've got here, I'm going to put this into the freezer, but what I've got here is some rye bread with a little bit of cream cheese on it. So we're going to cut a few slices for lunch here. I think a couple of slices on each, don't you? Yes. There we go. Yeah, a bit of luxury for our Sunday lunch. Absolutely delightful. There we go. There you have it. Our beautiful rye bread with a bit of cream cheese and our Jack Daniels Honey Smoked Salmon. I think we're done here. Shall I try one of these? Yeah, why not? I'll tell you what, I'm going to save those for lunch, but this piece that I cut here, I'm going to give this a go. That is beautiful. Not too salty. It's got that lovely salmon flavour and you can taste the smoke. The smoke is amazing. And it's just got that hint of sweetness and that whiskey aroma, or that bourbon aroma. Bourbon? Yeah, it's bourbon, isn't it? That's amazing. Wow, I think that's a real triumph. I'll leave all the details in the description of the video. If you liked it, give us a big thumbs up. Let us know what you think in the comments, and we will see you on the very next video. Take care, folks, and have a good one.